The best guys in the world have always been the ones you see get hit the least.
Yeah.
The fastest way to finish a fight will always be fist to chin. Sometimes it's the guy who's going to be the greatest is going to be how they respond when they get their first check.
If I can go back in 5 years, listen one thing from the coach, that you're not getting paid, why are you getting hit?
The guys making all the money who are legendary fighters are the guys who are doing boxing fitness. Like, you know, a lot of guys had to literally die to get to where we are now, right? Discipline is freedom. If you were born poor in North America, that's not your fault, right? But if you stay poor, it is. End of the day, and this is why I still preach the boxing thing. I'm not just on one side. The fastest way to finish a fight will always be fist to chin. And so this is why MMA is so exciting, man. Like, it's just like everyone gets to choose their path. It's the purest. And so I think, like I said, boxing to me will always be popular. You can't deny it. Everyone wants to see violence. Just punch is always going to be exciting to watch. You can't deny that. The best pure athletes that are smaller guys, like if you're Gervonta Davis, the most money you can make as a guy that size is still boxing. You can't go to the NFL. You can't be in the NBA. So they still get the better pure athletes. But my warning to boxing is, man, y'all better step your game, because if Canelo versus Belonga is what you're giving us when we have O'Malley versus Merab, good luck. And once Canelo is gone, man, because of what they've done to the sport, Gervonta's probably the only real star coming up. And now they're saying he can't even get a fight. It's now completely flipped where the guy who's worth all the money, your biggest payday, now guys are avoiding him. Like Terrence Crawford's being avoided. Like that wasn't the case in boxing back in the day. When you were the king, there's no reason to be. Now you're seeing that. So you're going to continue to see our 40-year-old retired guys broken come to your sport and make more money. And then another thing is you don't see too many old guys winning titles that weren't wrestlers. How many guys over the age of 40 you ever won a title that weren't a grappler? Glover Teixeira was a grappler. Daniel Cormier, you have Stipe about to get a fight. It is hard to have longevity as a striker. Alex Pereira probably has the best shot because he's already kind of up there in age. But that's the one thing I'll say is, like, the beauty about MMA is, like, when you're done with your career, especially if you have a certain style, you can teach something that's more realistic. You can have more of a following, because I agree with a lot of my jiu-jitsu people, which is, it's easier to teach people jiu-jitsu than teaching them how to punch and kick. And it's true. In terms of pure self-defense, jiu-jitsu is going to be a much more effective thing than boxing, because I can't afford to have to bare-knuckle somebody every time I have a... Sometimes you're going against a guy who's just big as hell. I can box, but if I'm going against a 250 drunk, coked up idiot at the bar, man, these punches might take a little more, and all he has to land is one.
So I always used to fight, like even one of my coach, like amazing Darren, he's like, yo, I really love your old style of boxing, like just going in there and banging. But what happened now? I'm like, listen, I want to have a life. I don't want to be like as you say, punch drunk.
To me, you're a better boxer because you are more defensive and take your time.
I got like a few knockdown, and I've never got those one because banging. It's just because the movement and not getting hit. I swear to God, bro, this is the biggest change in my life ever.
The best boxers in the world, and we can just go off of just Mayweather, right? That's the obvious one. It's always been about defense. It really has. The best guys in the world have always been the ones you see get hit the least.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen Canelo dropped?
No, never.
Right? I'm going to say this. If I'm Canelo's team and his management, keep doing what you're doing. If people are going to let you beat up guys that we know you can beat up,
right.
Forget what I got to say. Like, once again, he has a life for after, right? I make my jokes about duck this, duck that, but it's not a shot at Canelo. Canelo fought Triple G. Canelo fought killers. My point is, understand that you are never going to get to see your favorite fighter fight anybody legit anymore because you guys keep supporting this. He's supposed to do this. He's supposed to keep selling you guys fights that you know he's going to win. Like, that's his job.
Yeah.
I have mad respect for Canelo. Canelo's a dog. I'm more trolling his fans, and I'm saying your support of this fuckery is what's killing your sport. This is why champions are fighting on ESPN for free. This is why guys can't get fights. But he's smart. And this is the thing about boxing a lot of times. And this is why I get into arguments. Shout out to my guy from Science Over Violence. We have a little debate going on where I said I think the best system of boxing comes out of Ukraine and the best athletes come out of America. And I was referencing how if you look at the best non-black fighters in America, there's really only one guy you can name, which is Caleb Plant. All the top guys of Europe, let's just say it, white guys, are all from Eastern Europe. They have a very understanding system. They do a lot of stuff that's almost playful to learn. Their sparring is very scientific. Mayweather's a great fighter, but these doghouse sparring sessions we're seeing are terrible. When people say, well, he's Floyd Mayweather, what the fuck do you know? No argument from me here. But look at his father and his uncle. Both suffer from these same issues. He talks about like it's a thing in his family with the brain thing, right? When you're a freak athlete and you're bred for this, the cream can rise to the top. Gervonta Davis. But once again, how many dead bodies and knocked out, fucked up guys you have? You have 17-year-olds doing no time limit sparring. Like, yeah, okay, someone's gonna rise, but what about the guy who took the L? He's somebody who could have still been a champ later on. Because guess what? The guy who's more talented at 17, 18, and Gervonta is an example of this. A lot of times they're not the one who lasts a long time because of discipline. They make a little money, they become Adrian Broner, they start doing drugs, they party well. But that one kid that you let him punish that maybe, it shouldn't have went that far, he could have been the one who made it. He's the one who might have been a little more disciplined, but at that moment, he doesn't have the pure raw talent. A lot of these sparring sessions are only favoring the pure raw talent.
So what is your advice to these guys?
Hard sparring, I believe, should be a lot of times done in the boxing realm. Because you look at Muay Thai kind of has an understanding of a more playful style if you go spar Muay Thai. But then, yeah, when we go to boxing, we have the headgear and all that, we can go a little harder, but it should always be isolated to camp. When I see guys coming sparring and just getting thumped, and it's like, oh, he doesn't have a fight or he hasn't found this line. It's like, well, why?
No
right?
point.
If I break one kid down now, yeah, this one talented kid, this Mike Tyson, this Adrian Broner, all that, yeah, they might be the GOAT, right? But what about all the other guys? If you only foster an environment that caters to the toughest, the hardest, how many world champs might you have that are going to be the disciplined guy? Sometimes it's the guy who's going to be the greatest is going to be how they respond when they get their first check. Right away, their first, even just local fame. I've seen guys win amateur belts, they get a certain level of popularity, and it's like they think they're in the UFC and they start acting right. You can tell, like, oh, well, thank God you didn't make $1 million, right? If I had an environment where it only catered to the best athlete, the toughest, a guy like him would have fizzled out, because I had a bunch of guys that when I started that if I just let everybody beat the brakes off each other, a guy like him, like, this is crazy. But I always understood, man, you never know who that gem is going to be. Right? Our coach is very good at that as well. You notice
Coach Delgado all day, bro. If I can go back in 5 years, listen one thing from the coach, that you're not getting paid, why are you getting hit?
Bro, and not even that. He understood this. I remember, like, it's one of those things where, like, if you're not in shape and you're a fighter anyway, he won't let us go do hard sparring. No. You got to start with the drills. There's other coaches, though, who will throw you in there knowing damn well you're not ready, you don't have the proper gear, the proper training, and it's the cream rising to the crop. Guys are getting dropped, knocked out, beat up. I've seen it. And, how many of those guys ever get to their full potential, right? Because you have some guy who's been doing this for 3 years beating them up. I want everyone to feel comfortable to keep training around all these killers, because if you are under the right system and the right people, you yourself become a killer. But if I just throw everybody in there, who's the toughest, who is the hardest, and there's a lot of MMA gyms who've built champions that way, right? We've seen that. A lot of these crazy gyms where they get the cream to the rise to the top, but a lot of times, man, you just don't get the long-term success that you should get, right? So, yeah, my thing is always this, man. Do what you can to protect your brain. And end of the day, man, even if you are a boring fighter, you can beat Colby Covington, right? So, it's just such a good time to be an MMA fighter or choose to get in the sport. So many other ways to leverage your career, being an entrepreneur. You can just make it to the UFC. And if you're a smart enough guy, you can make more money than a lot of these UFC champs.
Tell us, how do you have this kind of open mind? I've seen you. Like, it looks like you went to the business school.
I did actually go to business school, though.
How? Maybe that's why.
This argument between boxing and MMA has been going on forever. And a stronger argument is going to MMA every year, right? So 10 years ago, it was much easier for boxers to look down on us. Now, it's getting, especially in the younger generation, it's getting harder and harder to look down on it. 2008 was the Floyd Mayweather era. Us MMA guys didn't have shit to stand on, right? There was very few millionaires. Fighter pay was crap, but now it's different, right? And so what happens a lot of times is I kind of got sick of the constant, like, low-key shade towards MMA, and one day I snapped.
Really, yeah?
I one day snapped and I go, I got $1,000. We'll go 1 round boxing, 1 round MMA, back and forth till somebody quits. This is years ago, right? And I remember in the moment realizing what happened. I kind of, this is when I was younger, a little more rambunctious, willing to get into a fight. It turned from kind of getting trolled to me bullying a guy, because this is what happens. You box me all the time. I know I'm the better boxer, but you've never gone on my mat. So when I make that bet, all of a sudden it clicks, like, well, damn, I just finished sparring with you and I couldn't beat you up. Like, yeah, that one for round one. All of a sudden you see very quickly how humble a lot of these boxers really are. Why? Because I'm here to be humbled. In the boxing gym, I'm not who I am in the MMA gym. But that's the thing. This is why a lot of boxers, it's like, they know deep down that even their favorite boxer, they're not taking against the best MMA guy in that weight class. And there's a humility to that. And now that you're seeing UFC guys come over and taking your bag, making more money than you for not even winning fights, it is humbling. And boxers hate to admit that, but you guys are the ones allowing it to happen. You guys are tuning in too. It ain't just MMA fans watching these Jake Paul fights. It's real boxers supporting, right? Mike Tyson, like. So this is why I'm so open, because like I said, I just see the bigger picture. My ego is, because I know that the real money in these sports anyway isn't really the fighters. Who's the biggest star in UFC history? Longest running UFC star? Nope, before him. And they're still famous today.
John Jones?
Nope, before him.
GSP?
Before him.
I don't know.
And they're still a bigger factor than GSP now. Dana White.
Oh,
who's the biggest star in the UFC? Who's legitimately the biggest star
Dana White.
in the UFC? Right. Let's be honest. And working at title boxing was a big thing. Like right away, I'm like, oh man, like the guys making all the money who are legendary fighters here are the guys who are doing boxing fitness. Like, and so I knew this years ago, man. And so now that I'm 40 and now that I'm doing it, like sometimes when I have these conversations and you know, you get into these debates with guys, I just have to sit back and laugh. I'm like, don't worry, give it time. Give it about 10 years when your career is done and let me know if this is still how you feel about the sport and about how to train, and you know what I mean? Yeah, so when I talk about guys like you, man, you guys are at the forefront of this time where, like, look how much money KSI is making boxing. Getting, right? Like, Jake Paul, like, crazy. He's about to fight Mike Tyson. So, you know, I know what I'm saying is true. And sometimes when I have these conversations with guys, I just laugh like, man, you're so far behind already. Like, good luck. You know what I mean? So when I talk to guys like you or a lot of these guys from Thick Boy, man, you guys have such an opportunity to really do well in this sport and it carry you on from years to years, where, you know, a lot of guys had to fucking literally die to get to where we are now, right? I just see the landscape of what martial arts is going to be, and I just know I'm on the right path. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, your best shot is to do something that you're actually interested in. Try to chase something that like you really have a passion for, because I don't believe there's anything that people have passion for that can't be made financial. I literally can't think of anything. Like, look at some of these YouTube videos where people are just sitting on camera eating weird stuff. You ever seen these weird like videos? Like what? But people are making money doing that, right? So like, I literally believe in 2024, unless you're into something illegal and weird, right? Like really weird. Even some legal stuff like marijuana in places. As an entrepreneur, if you really are, you can make money almost doing anything.
You have to, bro. Honestly, like you're telling me, like I sometimes I make reel like 7 second long, 6 second, and I put my whole 2 to 3 days, and I make that video, and when I post, I don't get any response.
Yeah.
And like it drives me nuts sometimes.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
But again, I get back at it again because I like that. That is something that I actually like. If that is something that I don't like, I cannot even imagine wasting 2 days of my life and not getting any result out of it.
No, it's true. Unless, like I said, and that's why certain people, you choose it, right? There's certain jobs you can make, right? If you go work on Bay Street, Wall Street, there's certain there's jobs that like we know as a person you may not love it, like it, but we at least know the financial gain is there, right?
No, like
and sometimes you just have to find that in between.
That's why how many people are happy in America? The percentage is really low, my friend.
It's relative, right? There's people like in countries like where you're from or my father's from that like, you know, they look at the average person's life. Everything is relative, and that's kind of the irony, right? Like you sometimes have this doubt as an entrepreneur, and specifically because of what I do, I would meet people who are like, no, you're on the right path. Like I did what you
did.
Like I have so many clients who've, you know, I'd have these little doubts, and they're the ones who are like, trust me, I'm everything you think that you missed out on. I'm rich, and like, trust me, like the most fun I have is when I come into this gym. And these things, the money I think will eventually come. But yeah, there's a lot of things I know in my intelligence I could have had the money first now. At my age now, I'm turning 40, like there's a lot of businesses I could have went into where yes, the financial stuff, all that would be there. But would I be happy? And would I now be going outside of that job to chase that camaraderie? And I realized, man, like after no matter how much money you have, like that's what I see a lot of guys seem to enjoy the most, is that camaraderie of coming to the jiu-jitsu gym. You know, I see a 45, 50-year-old guy who will never be a world champ or nothing coming into our gym, getting beat up by guys like you. And it's like, they love it. And it's like, the financial things will come. And now it is coming, right? Like the Thick Boy thing is the one that finally hit. But like I could have quit years ago on a lot of what I'm doing. And yeah, man, I just know that like a lot of what I'm doing, even if I wasn't running Thick Boy, if there was a Thick Boy in the city I'm in, I would have wanted to be involved in somehow. Food and fighting. Those are two things that bring humans together. You know what I mean? Competition and food, right? Like, and so it's just a thing that happened to stick.
All right. So before we conclude, I'd really tell us, if you have to put everything in like one summary, how did you get where you are right now, like fitness wise, relationship wise, money wise, and your happiness wise? There are millions, if not billions, of people out there. They dream. Some people can't even fathom of being in your shoes. Like, you got everything. You got the physique. I mean, like, come on, look at you, bro.
It's crazy
Like,
when you
you
say
got
something like, you give me a lot of credit that, you know, you're right. Like, it's sometimes I have to, like, I'm living in the moment where you're right. Like, a lot of men, especially now, this is the best sentence I can give. And I used to say this to my guy Boyan, and this is a sentence I don't even know where I got it from. I'm sure you can Google it. Discipline is freedom. No matter what you just mentioned, and that, so name one, out of all the things you named, just name one of them, right? What you said, these 5 things, name one.
like, how do you have 6-pack, 8-pack?
Right, discipline.
How do you
Discipline,
adjust?
right? Like, everybody knows the more disciplined you are with your training, the easier it is to get a physique. That's a simple one. Next, what's another one?
Financial freedom.
Discipline is freedom, man. Like, understanding that sometimes, like, foregoing that pleasure, like, delayed gratitude. Financial freedom a lot of time comes from, one, understanding discipline when it comes to your finances, understanding that certain things are worth holding off for a better future here, saving here, but also financially, how do you really make money other than offering a service and other than being valuable? Same thing with discipline. There's so many stories of people that will talk about, I was the clerk at this store, I ended up owning a thing. The only thing that separated them and the other guy was discipline.
Wow.
Right? Like, there's like this old legendary, I think it's like Jim Rohn thing, where it was like a story about this guy who was working on the railroad, and he sees the president of the road, and he happens to know him, and they're talking, and somebody's like, oh, how did you know the president of the company? He's like, oh, well, we started on this railroad together. And he goes, well, how are you still here, and how's that guy the president? He goes, because when I came here, I came to work for the company. He came to work for the company, which meant his vision was, I'm going to rise the ranks, and one day I'm going to own it. I just came to get my paycheck. And we all know people like this.
That's interesting.
We all know people in the restaurant business. You know people that start off where you were, who just kind of came for the thing, and now, but you're elevated to this level or a level of respect in your company. This is across the board. So, like, a lot of times when people like have their little sob stories and nonsense, man, listen, if you were born poor in North America, that's not your fault, right? Canada, United States, let's say a lot of places in Europe. But if you stay poor, it is. Anybody who comes from an immigrant background knows that we laugh at a lot of people born in these countries who don't realize what they have. I was born in Canada, but because I was raised by an immigrant, we laugh at the excuses minorities make. It's like, oh, that's cute. Like, that's your excuse for not being successful. That, like, because we're just not in a place where that's a problem anymore. It's just a lie. And immigrants know this, right? So discipline, even with the financial thing, it's the same thing, man. All of us know some guy, uncle, or dad, ourselves maybe, who came from another country, started off poor, and just worked harder and more disciplined than the other people around me. A lot of times people were born with these opportunities, and now, you know, you're where you are, and you're listening to people complain about the system, and it's like, man, you're just lazy.
That's crazy.
It's just an excuse.
Wow.
We all know that. But I will say this, right? Not only is there ways to make money still, but this is another thing. Discipline in your knowledge. We are where we are because we, as a generation, voted in certain people, and then now we're crying about it. You weren't disciplined when it was time to go to that voting booth. You weren't disciplined in your knowledge. A lot of people just didn't want to be disciplined in their knowledge. A lot of people didn't want to be open, made a lot of decisions, and now they're regretting, and instead of being honest, you're blaming the system. No, you're an adult. You made certain choices, because we could do a whole podcast on my come up during...
No, you're going to be back here for sure.
Some people don't have the discipline to be open-minded. They don't have the discipline to say, all right, some things are worth the consequences, right? So a lot of this stuff I see, especially in Canada, like, no doubt you're right. With what I have American friends hit me up all the time with stuff, like they'll send me some on Instagram, like, is this real? And what's happening in Canada? And I sometimes have to be like, yeah, this is like, you know, it's like, I don't even realize how crazy what's going on up here is, right? Like, so these discipline is freedom, man. It's like one of the best examples like I could give to young men that want, like, especially as a man, like, you have to be disciplined. A lot of times women are, like I said, you see all these podcasts, I'll quote it, where it's like women are born with their value. Men have to earn that. And so if you're a young man, you're waiting for somebody to save you, like, good luck.
All right. So, honestly, I can talk all day.
Yeah.
But I got some rapid fire for you.
Yeah,
let's do the fighting first, because that's the sweet spot. Best fighter in the world.
Right now or all time?
All time. Or actually active.
All time is John Jones, and that answer could still be the same. So for now, it's kind of the easy, lazy answer to say John Jones, right? Like he's never lost. He's still a champion. So right now, it's a kind of an easy, lazy answer to give because
Is Habib up there in top 3? No.
I think Khabib is up there. I just can't put a guy at top 3. He's only beaten one undisputed champion, that was Conor, and Conor has a losing record at that weight class, and he was never double champ. If you're not on the double champ talk, it's hard for me to put you above George St. Pierre, GSP, John Jones. I mean, Henry Cejudo to me has a better resume. Yeah, I mean, look at how many world champs he beat, and he went through 2 divisions. Who is the best person Conor McGregor ever beat, in your opinion? Not Conor McGregor, Khabib.
Habib, Conor.
And Conor has a losing record at 155. Conor has 1 win at 155, and that's when he got the belt. That can't be the reason you're the GOAT, in my opinion.
You're right. Best striker in UFC?
Alex Pereira. It's not even close now. Maybe he's not the most skilled and has all the, but like, I always say like a good black belt's like a Swiss Army knife, but sometimes a guy's got a machete. I don't care if you got a corkscrew or this, a can opener, I got a machete, right? And that's what that left hand he has. So right now, even though there's probably people like Izzy or other people that have more, like maybe even Sean O'Malley, you got to give it to the 2-division champ, Poatan. You got to.
Wow. Best grappler?
Ooh, that's a tough one now. You could definitely make the argument it's Islam Makhachev, but it could be his cousin Nurmagomedov. It could be, man, that's definitely a tougher, because there's so many guys that we don't know yet. Bo Nickel could be the best. We just don't know it yet, right? We don't know, right? Like he's
Still need to be
3 national check. We don't know, right? So if let's say we keep it within the champs, I would probably say Islam Makhachev. If not, once again, another lazy answer could be John Jones. It's not too many times we see him on his back. It's somewhere
not lazy,
between those
bro.
two.
He's a dog.
Yeah, but I say lazy because like a lot of people argue like could he beat Tom Aspinall now? That's a whole right. But I would say him or Islam. Like to be fair, there's probably maybe somebody who is the better pure guy.
Islam over Habib already.
Oh well, if we're talking about all time, then yeah, I'm not against putting Habib up there as one of the better grapplers of all time because I can't deny how successful he was at it. So I'm okay with putting Habib more in that conversation than best overall fighter. So yeah, I definitely think Habib was a better grappler than Islam. If we're talking about non-active fighters, you could definitely say that.
Okay, we're gonna make a couple of fight prediction. O'Malley, Merab.
I'm gonna go O'Malley. I just think O'Malley's shown me enough to show you that you gotta last a long time. 25 minutes is a long time to avoid him catching you. And I just think he's a more evolved version of Conor. I think that's so. I'm gonna go O'Malley.
So you think Merab is not gonna Kirk him? You know our Kirk. His name is Kirk, right?
I think he could, right? And this is one of those things where when you pick against a wrestler, it's never like, oh my God, if the wrestler wins, right? Like if I pick against Bilal Muhammad to beat Leon, when he wins, you're not surprised. It's like, okay, well, it just worked out, right? So he definitely could. That's one thing about that style of fighting is like it can always work. It's always an opportunity to take a guy down.
So you're picking O'Malley right now?
But I am picking O'Malley. I think he's shown enough, and I think he has a good coach in Tim Welch who. He didn't just come from a striking background. He has a coach who really understands grappling.
Max versus Ilya Taporia.
I'm going Ilya Taporia.
Shark, we're going to do that fucking podcast.
Yeah, so, listen, I love Max Holloway. I absolutely love Max Holloway. I do think he's one of the better boxers. I think that might go to his detriment because I think Ilya Taporia is probably the better overall boxer. And I think he's just a better overall fighter. I think he's taken less damage. I think it's going to be interesting if Max decides to fight the same way he did against Gaethje. But what's also interesting is, will Taporia be able to catch Max? Because one thing about Max's length, a lot of times you notice is guys land punches, but because it's that couple inches difference in height, they don't hit the same. So guys a lot of times will gas themselves out, throwing punches that a lot of times they do knock a guy out, right? So, but I'm still going Taporia. I think he's one of the... If he's what I think he is, if Ilya Taporia is what I think he is, he's a top 3 pound for pound guy right now. If he's what I think he is. I could be wrong though. He go out there and
get his ass. You think he's going to knock him out?
I think... Man, like it's hard to say. Either he knocks him out because Max is another guy who's been through a lot of wars, or it's a beating, kind of what Poirier did to Max, where it's just like he just can't handle that power that Taporia has.
So what I believe is Max is gonna get knocked out.
That's not a bad bet.
Because Taporia is just gonna walk in. That's why I'm saying he does not.
Listen. Listen. If you're gonna put a bet on a parlay, I bet those are good odds, man. Like, so yeah, I'm very. I know a lot of guys.
And one of the most favorite fighter for me right now in UFC, Hamzat versus Whittaker.
So I'll say this: if Hamzat is healthy, and I don't want to get your thing flagged. I think Hamzat, during some of this lockdown stuff, decided to take a procedure that has clearly affected his health. And I won't get into too many conspiracies, but if you look at a lot of the things that has caused him to pull out of fights, it is mirroring a lot of things that a lot of people have explained after having this procedure. I'll just say that. So purely off of if he's healthy, Hamzat. But if every time he seems to have to cut weight and stress, his body is not
He
reacting.
doesn't even have to cut that much weight. Now he's bigger with 180 something.
Yeah, he
185.
seems to every fight have an issue now close to fights. But I'm picking him if he's healthy.
Interesting. Okay, finally, I want to ask about the totally unrelated boxing. Bivol, what's the other guy name? Beterbiev.
I'll say this. I think I'm going to go with Beterbiev simply because of this. Because I think not only does he have the size.
That's interesting. Darren's picking a Bivol. And I'm
not against Bivol. I'm not against Bivol winning at all. If he wins, he does.
Beterbiev.
I think Beterbiev just hits so hard. And I'm going to go and take my shots when I can. Canelo ain't what y'all think he is. And I think Bivol was a cherry pick gone wrong. He thought he had a cherry pick, cut a sour apple. And it's turned Bivol into a boogeyman that I don't know if he really is. There's stories that he used to go spar and was a sparring partner for David Benavidez. And David seems very confident in wanting to fight him. But Benavidez seems to be a guy who's always been a scary, beating everybody up, knocking him out. I think Bivol's stats got elevated by beating Canelo, who I just don't think is what everyone thinks he is. I just, personal opinion. So take away that Canelo fight. Would anybody be picking Bivol in a fight against a guy who's doing what we're seeing Beterbiev do? What else would we be basing this off of? It's because he beat Canelo, everyone is even giving him a shot, which he does have. But I'm going with Beterbiev on that one.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's all for the Oak Villain today. And it's absolutely been amazing talking to you. And I can't wait for the next time again.
Yep,
because I have so much more stuff to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. We basically only talked about MMA. I know you want to talk about some of the other
I want to talk whole
spicy stuff and all that. So we can definitely do that more. But yeah, man, it's a natural conversation, man. This is why your podcast is gonna do well. That felt very natural. It's like, you know what I mean. But next time we'll make it more about some of the other stuff.
No, you've been amazing, man. It was not stressful at all. I was like, okay, it's first time I'm bringing over and bringing you over
good,
here.
Brother. You did good,
the
man.
President of Thick Boy.
Yeah, just like your fighter, keep with it, man. All the mistakes, you're gonna have issue with how you sound. You're not gonna like this. Just stick with it, brother. You're gonna rewatch this, and trust me, when I first did my podcast, there was 1,000 things I hated about how I sounded, looked. All
That's
that.
why I'm not editing. The man is editing.
Just keep going.
Well,
just keep.
But you heard him. You said you're not gonna like it a lot, right?
No, it's part of it, man. It's like I remember the first time hearing my voice on podcast, I was like, and then you just kind of realize, like, oh, it's not. You know what I mean? So the same thing I get, man. Just stick with it, brother.
I passed through that
You're gonna be
point.
good at this, just like everything else, brother. Just stick with it.
But yeah, man, thank you very much, brother.
Anytime,
and
man.
I can't wait for the next time, brother.
I'll see you at the gym tomorrow.
Alright, guys, like and subscribe to the Oak Villains, and make sure go follow Thick Boy on Instagram, YouTube, all the other social media platform, guys. Thick Boy, thanks.